10 years. That's exactly how long I spent in the belly of the financial beast. First came the degree, then the brutal accounting qualifications, and finally, the summit of the food chain, a career in investment banking. I learned how to manage billions, but there was one problem. While I knew everything about corporate money, I had no idea how to manage my own. I saw the bank accounts of people you consider the elite from the inside. And do you know what I found there? Chaos, panic, living paycheck to paycheck, just with six-figure checks. It opened my eyes to the greatest lie of capitalism. Poverty isn't just a lack of money. If you give a broke person $1 million, in a year, they'll be back in the slums. Why? Because poverty is a glitch in your habit programming. It is a virus sitting in your brain. I spent years purging this virus from my own mind. I identified 9 specific bugs, 9 habits that keep you in financial slavery no matter how much you earn. And the very first one is the foundation of your poverty. It is the mistake you make the exact second your paycheck hits your account. Imagine the moment your phone buzzes, you get that notification from the bank. Direct deposit received. For a split second, you feel relief, you feel rich. But what happens in the next 24 hours? You open the app and start the distribution. Rent or mortgage, gone. Utilities, gone. Car payment, subscriptions, Friday night drinks. You hand your money out to everyone standing in line for your attention. And only at the very end of the month, if there are a few crumpled bills left at the bottom of your wallet, you say, well, I guess I'll save this. I call it financial serfdom. Think about it. When you pay everyone else first, you are literally saying, my landlord's profit is more important than my future. Netflix's profit is more important than my freedom. You are working for everyone except yourself. Wealthy people have hacked this system. They do the exact opposite. As soon as money hits the account, the first transaction occurs. Not for the apartment, not for food, but to themselves. A minimum of 10% flies into a separate savings account. This is an ironclad rule. It is a tax on your freedom that you pay to yourself. I know what you're going to say. I've heard it hundreds of times. Mike, you don't understand. I live paycheck to paycheck. If I take out 10%, I won't have anything to eat. That is a lie your brain invents to stay in its comfort zone. Here is a harsh experiment. If the government raised income tax by 10% tomorrow, would you starve to death? No. You would grumble, you would be angry, but you would adjust. You would stop buying the $7 latte, cancel one streaming service, find groceries on sale. You would survive. The amazing trait of the human psyche is that we adapt to any budget. If you remove that 10% immediately, the second it arrives, your brain won't even notice the loss. It will simply reconfigure the mathematics of survival to fit the remaining amount. You won't even realize you are saving. It will happen in the background. Stop making other people richer by buying their stuff before you have bought your own financial security. But let's say you learn to do this. You pay yourself. And then, temptation strikes. You see something you want right now. You don't have the cash. But the bank kindly offers you a plastic card that promises to solve all your problems, and you commit the second fatal error. Look around. Debt has become the norm. We live in a culture where it is considered normal to buy the new iPhone on credit, even though the old one still works. We buy clothes, Christmas gifts, and even vacations, paying with money we do not have. This is the second habit that guarantees poverty. Tolerance for bad debt. I have an iron rule. If I cannot put the full amount in cash on the table right here and now, then I cannot afford this thing. Period. No exceptions. But banks spend billions of dollars on marketing to convince you otherwise. They tell you, you deserve this. They offer cashback, points, miles, beautiful platinum cards. It is all shiny bait on a giant steel hook. You have to understand one thing about the banking business model. In the credit card industry, there is a term for people who pay off their debt completely during the grace period and pay no interest. Bankers call these clients deadbeats because the bank makes no money off them. The ideal client for a bank is the one who pays the minimum monthly payment, the one who drags out the pleasure. The average credit card interest rate hovers around 20 to 30% APR. Just think about that math. You get a pathetic 1% cash back, but you pay 25% on top to service your debt. That is not a benefit. That is highway robbery that you signed up for voluntarily. Anything bought on credit automatically becomes a third more expensive. You are literally burning your future working hours. When you take a consumer loan for a TV, you aren't just buying a TV. You are stealing money from your future self. You are taking the time of your life, hours, days, weeks that you will have to work in the future, and spending them today. This creates a vicious cycle. You work to pay for the past. You have no money left for the present, so you borrow again to fund the future. Credit companies want you to be financially illiterate. Their profit is built on your mistake. Their skyscrapers are built from your late fees. Climbing out of this pit is hard but necessary. But even if you live at zero, even if you paid off all the cards, you are still in the glorious danger zone. Because life is unpredictable. And if you have no protection, the first blow from fate will knock you right back to the bottom. The third habit keeping you poor is the lack of a stockpile. Or, as the military says, the lack of a strategic reserve. Most people live by the best-case scenario script. They build their budget assuming that tomorrow they will be healthy, the car will start, and the boss will be in a good mood. But entropy is a law of the universe. Chaos is inevitable. If you don't have a cash reserve equal to 3 to 6 months of expenses, you aren't just taking a risk. You are walking a tightrope over a canyon without a safety net, and the wind is picking up. This amount, 3 to 6 months of freedom, is not an investment. It is not vacation money. It is your shield. I noticed an amazing thing when working with clients. People without a financial cushion are constantly in a state of background anxiety. Even when they smile, a part of their brain, like a heavy program running in the background, is constantly scanning reality for threats. What if I get a toothache? What if the laptop breaks? This background noise devours your mental energy. There are studies showing that financial insecurity lowers cognitive bandwidth. Your IQ literally drops. You think worse, work worse, and make bad decisions because your brain is occupied with survival. By having this buffer, you aren't buying things. You are buying the right to say no, the right not to tolerate a tyrant boss because you aren't afraid of starving the next day, the right to survive a crisis without panic. How do you create this stockpile? We go back to point number 1. That 10%. First, you fill this tank. And only when it is full to the brim, only when you have 6 months of autonomy, do you start looking towards investments. But here, we encounter a paradox. People tell me, Mike, I save, but the money disappears anyway. I don't understand where it goes. And this brings us to the fourth, most insidious habit, the habit that allows money to become invisible. Imagine you turn on your GPS and type in the destination, financial freedom. But the GPS gives an error. Why? Because it cannot plot a route if it doesn't know your current location. The fourth habit keeping you poor is financial blindness, not knowing your numbers. There's a dangerous myth. If I earned more, my problems would disappear. I have seen this myth destroy lives. In economics, there's a term, lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep. This phenomenon works like gravity. As soon as your income rises, your expenses immediately pull up to the new level. You get a raise and immediately change your car. You get a bonus and move to a bigger apartment. You are running faster, but the scenery doesn't change. I saw guys on Wall Street receiving annual bonuses the size of a suburban house, and by the end of the year, they were in the red. How is that possible? They had a hole in their pocket the size of their ego. The more money passed through their hands, the more careless they became with it. A student who counts every penny and saves $10 is technically richer than a banker who earns $1 million but spends $1,001. The student has a positive balance. The banker has growing debt. You cannot manage what you do not measure. That is a business axiom. You need a tracker. Not just an app on your phone that you look at once a month with horror. You need a dashboard system. Make it a ritual. Once every 3 months, have a date night with your finances, open the spreadsheet, look the truth in the eye. Exactly how much came in, how much went to fixed costs, how much did you pay yourself, that 10%. What is your net worth today? Assets minus liabilities? People are afraid to do this. They are afraid to see the numbers in black and white because numbers don't lie. Numbers rip off the "I'm doing okay" mask, but this moment of truth is point zero. As soon as you start tracking money, magic happens. You suddenly notice leaks in the hull. You see subscriptions you don't use. You see how much really goes to Uber and Starbucks. And the very fact of observation changes your behavior. But often, looking at this report, you will find one strange expense category. It looks harmless, but it sucks the life out of you. These are not expenses for needs. These are expenses for emotions. The fifth habit is expensive hobbies and what marketers cynically call retail therapy. We live in the era of dopamine addiction. We feel sad, we buy, we feel bored, we buy, we feel insignificant, and we buy something branded to appropriate the status of that logo. I am not against hobbies. Passions make life worth living, but there is a fine line between passion and financial suicide. Huge corporations spend billions of dollars not on improving product quality, but on neuromarketing. They study your brain under a microscope. They know which buttons to push. Social media has turned into a showcase of infinite success. You scroll through your feed and see, this guy is playing golf at a private club. This girl collects vintage bags. And a voice in your head whispers, if you don't do the same, you are losing. This is the comparison trap. You start spending money to create a lifestyle you think you are supposed to lead. You buy professional photography gear, even though you shoot once a year. You buy a membership to an elite gym where you pay not for the machines, but for the right to be among the elite. But here is the brutal truth. Things do not heal the soul. The euphoria from a purchase lasts an average of 20 minutes, then comes the withdrawal. And you are left with a useless object and a hole in your budget. Marketers are not selling you a product, they are selling you a better version of yourself. But you don't become better by buying $300 sneakers, you just become a person in expensive sneakers who has $300 less in assets. Before spending a large sum on a hobby, ask yourself an honest question. Am I buying this because the process brings me joy, or because I want to be the kind of person who owns this? If the answer is the second one, close your wallet. However, there is another side to the coin. Some people get so scared of their spending that they go to the other extreme. They turn into financial ascetics. They save on everything. They believe the path to wealth lies through denying themselves a cup of coffee. And this is the sixth habit, which, paradoxically, also leads to a dead end. You have probably heard this advice from every financial guru on the internet. Stop buying that $5 latte and in 30 years, you will be a millionaire. It is a beautiful lie. Mathematically beautiful, but practically useless. The sixth habit, keeping people in the mental trap of poverty, is focusing exclusively on saving. Don't get me wrong, saving is important. We talked about that at the start. But saving is defense. In football, you can't win the match if you only stand in the goal. To win, you need to score goals. The problem with saving is that it has a hard mathematical limit. Imagine you earn $50,000. Even if you become a holy ascetic, eat sunlight, and live in a cardboard box, the maximum you can save is $50,000. You hit the floor. You cannot lower expenses below zero. On the other hand, income has no ceiling. There is no law of physics forbidding you from earning $100,000, $1 million, or $10 million. The growth potential is infinite. Wealthy people don't spend hours clipping coupons to save $1 on laundry detergent. They spend that time figuring out how to earn an extra $1,000. The energy you spend squeezing your already tight budget is energy stolen from your growth. Instead of thinking, how can I spend less, start asking, how can I earn more? This requires a mindset shift. It is scary. It is much easier to deny yourself dessert than to go to your boss and argue for a raise. It is much easier to buy cheap pasta than to launch a side hustle in the evenings or learn a new high-income skill. But this is exactly where the chasm lies between the middle class and the wealthy. The rich play offense. The poor play strictly defense. Use cashback apps, sure. Optimize spending, yes. But do not make it the meaning of your life. Your goal is to create a gap between income and expenses, and widening this gap is easier by raising the ceiling, not lowering the floor. However, once you start playing offense and your income starts to crawl up, you will face a new opponent. This opponent is silent, he is patient, and he takes his share automatically without even asking your permission. And if you don't know the rules of the game with him, you will lose more money than you spend on all your hobbies combined. Here is a fact that makes you feel uneasy. Look at the calendar. January, February, March, April. In the US, for the first 3 to 4 months of the year, you wake up to an alarm, sit in traffic, and endure stress at work for free. Every dollar earned during this time goes to your most expensive and silent partner, the government. The seventh habit of the poor is a passive attitude towards taxes. Taxes are the single largest expense in your life, more than your mortgage, more than food, more than your kids' education. But amazingly, people spend weeks choosing a new refrigerator to save a few $100, yet mindlessly hand over tens of thousands in taxes without even trying to learn how to legally reduce that bill. It is important to pause here. I am not talking about tax evasion. I am not talking about gray schemes that put you in prison. I am talking about tax avoidance and optimization. And the difference here is colossal. Wealthy people know a secret. The tax code is not just a list of penalties, it is a list of incentives. The government writes laws to encourage specific behavior. Want to pay less tax? Invest in the economy. Open a business, create jobs, provide housing. If you are a W-2 employee, you have the fewest levers. The system takes the tax before the money even hits your hands. But even here, there are loopholes. The government tells you, if you invest through these specific accounts, we won't take tax on your profit. I'm talking about the 401k, the Roth IRA, the HSA. And what do most people do? They ignore it. They open a regular Robinhood brokerage account and pay short-term capital gains tax on every trade. They voluntarily give away a chunk of their wealth simply because they are too lazy to fill out one extra form. This is a tax on ignorance. If you have a side hustle or freelance business, the opportunities are even greater. You can write off expenses. You can buy tech through the company. You can legally turn your personal spending into pre-tax business expenses. The rich hire CPAs not because they are stupid, but because a good tax strategist pays for their salary 10 times over. Stop perceiving taxes as a natural disaster you can do nothing about. Learn the rules of the game, because if you don't, you will work for the system. But if you do, the system will start working for you, leaving more resources at your disposal. So you plug the leaks in the budget, you optimize taxes, you have accumulated a decent sum of money, and then you commit the eighth error, the most tragic one. You decide to do nothing with this money. You decide to just wait. And this waiting kills your future. You have savings. They are sitting in a high-yield savings account. You feel calm. But if you could see the invisible, you would see your money burning. The eighth habit guaranteeing poverty in the long run is the fear of investing and procrastination. In the financial world, there's a concept called risk of inaction. Most people think investing is risky. The market might crash, stocks might tank, and that is true. But they miss the second part of the equation. Not investing is not the absence of risk. It is a guaranteed loss. Inflation is not just a number on the news. It is a tax on life. If real inflation is 5 to 10% a year, that means every 10 years, the purchasing power of your money is cut in half. Imagine you put a block of ice in the fridge. It melts slowly, but it melts. Your savings are melting the exact same way if they are just sitting under the mattress. But inflation is only half the trouble. The real tragedy is the missed magic of compound interest. Albert Einstein supposedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. And I am ready to sign under every word. Money knows how to multiply. But for this, it needs fuel. And that fuel is time. Every year you wait for the perfect moment to enter the market costs you not just the interest for that year. It costs you decades of growth on that interest. I saw young guys who started putting away a little bit at 20, and by 40, they outperformed those who started at 30 with huge sums. Time is the investor's most valuable asset. You cannot buy it. You cannot get it back. People say, I don't know where to start. I'm afraid of making a mistake. I'm waiting for the market to crash. These are excuses. While you wait, the train is leaving the station. You don't need to be Warren Buffett. You don't need to try and guess the next Apple or Nvidia. Modern tools allow you to buy the whole market with one button through S&P 500 index funds. It is boring. It won't make you rich overnight, but it is reliable. Take the first step. Let it be clumsy, let the amount be laughable. The main thing is to start the mechanism. Stop being a guardian of dying money. Become an owner of working capital. You can fix all 8 mistakes we talked about. You can start paying yourself, close debts, track a budget, and even start investing. But there is a final 9th wall. It is not in the bank, not in the wallet, and not in the tax code. It is in your imagination. And if you don't break it down, this entire video was a waste of time. We have reached the finale, and here lies the most dangerous trap of all. The 9th habit of poor people is magical thinking and the illusion of action. Right now you feel good. You watched almost an hour of content on financial literacy. You learned about taxes, debt, investing. Your brain is releasing dopamine because it feels like you did the work. It feels like you became richer, but that is a lie. You did nothing. You simply consumed information. I have met thousands of people who know the theory better than I do. They read every book by Kiyosaki, Buffett, and Graham. They know all the jargon. They can draw a perfect compound interest chart, but their bank account is empty. Why? Because they are professional dreamers. They are waiting for perfect conditions. They are waiting until they have enough money to start. They are waiting for Monday. They are waiting for the recession to end. The problem is that knowledge without action is just entertainment. It is intellectual masturbation. You stroke your ego with the thought, I know how to get rich, but in reality, you are no different from a person who doesn't know. The result is the same: zero. Wealth does not come to those who know. It comes to those who do. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know everything. Your first investment might be a dud. Your first budget might not balance. That is okay. That is the price of tuition. An error of action is always better than an error of inaction. Because action gives experience, while inaction leaves only fear and regret. Look at your life. How many times have you said to yourself, I really need to sort out my finances? And how many times did you actually sit down and sort them out? The gap between I know what to do and I do it is the graveyard of human ambition. Buried there are millions of unrealized projects, millions of unwritten books, and billions of unearned dollars. Do not become another theorist of success. Right now, when this video ends, you will have a choice. You can close the tab, open the next video with cats, and forget everything I said in 10 minutes. This is the path of least resistance. This is the path of the 9th habit. Or you can take one small, real action, not in your head, but in the physical world. Download your bank's app, open Excel, cancel one subscription, transfer $10 to a savings account. Take the first step before the motivation evaporates. Because no one is coming to save you. No wizard in a blue helicopter, no kind rich uncle, no government is going to make you rich. This is your responsibility alone. And your freedom begins where your excuses end. Financial literacy isn't about money, it's about control. When I was just starting my path in banking, I thought wealth was measured by the number of zeros in an account. I thought it was about expensive cars, watches, and penthouses. I was wrong. Real wealth is when you wake up in the morning and realize you don't have to go where you don't want to go or do what you hate just to pay the bills. Real wealth is the ability to say no. We broke down 9 habits, 9 chains holding you back, from the habit of paying others first to the fear of investing, from blind consumption to the paralysis of inaction. Each of these habits individually seems like a trifle, but together they form a perfect prison. A prison whose walls you don't see until you try to touch them. Today, you received the keys. But keys are useless if you don't put them in the lock and turn. The system we live in is built on your ignorance. Banks need you to be in debt. Corporations need you to be hungry for new things. The system needs you to be passive. Exiting this system is an act of rebellion. When you start saving 10%, you are rebelling. When you pay off a credit card, you are rebelling. When you invest, you are claiming your rights to the future. It won't happen in a day. It is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be relapses. There will be mistakes. The market will drop, and you will be scared. But now you have a map. You are no longer a passenger in your financial life. You are the pilot. Thank you for spending this hour of your time. I hope it was the best investment you made today. I'm Mike, and this was a story about money finally starting to work for you. See you in the next one.